So Born to Stand Out has dropped 3 new fragrances, and I just did a video about the last 3 fragrances about a month or so ago. And those fragrances were Sugar Addict, Cinnamon Pleasure, and Dirty Heaven. And now we have Happy Nuts, Mad Honey, and NANATOPIA. So Happy Nuts is a nutty fragrance with pistachio and other nutty notes. We've got Mad Honey, which is a honey-focused fragrance. And then NANATOPIA, which is a gourmand banana fragrance. And I had heard these 3 were coming when the last 3 fragrances were launched. And I'm actually really enjoying these 3 a little more than the last 3 fragrances, which were Sugar Addict, Cinnamon Pleasure, and Dirty Heaven. And there is a discount code over at Lucky Scent I'm going to talk to you about as well. So find out all about these 3 fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about the 3 latest Born to Stand Out fragrances. Are you a fan of this house? Do let me know if you are. And what are your favorite fragrances from this house? Put a comment down below so I can find out. But the 3 fragrances, again, are Happy Nuts, this one right here. We have Mad Honey, this one right here. And then finally, NANATOPIA, this one right here. Let me know if you've discovered these 3 latest fragrances. I'd like to find out, but we did feature one of Born to Stand Out fragrances in the last mystery box, which was Sugar Addict, my favorite of the last drop of 3 fragrances. And actually this drop, the latest 3 drop fragrances are actually a little more solid than the last one. In the last batch, Dirty Heaven was my least favorite. In fact, I didn't really care for that one that much. And now the same perfumer has given us Happy Nuts, which I prefer out of all 3 of these fragrances. It's my favorite of the 3 fragrances. So we went from one fragrance that I didn't care for to one that actually is really, really solid here and one I'm preferring over the other 3. Although all 3 are great, but out of the 3, Happy Nuts is my favorite. So Happy Nuts is one of the latest fragrances from Born to Stand Out. It's created by Margaux, Paih, Guérin. Remember, she did Dirty Heaven in the last drop. And Happy Nuts features notes of pistachio, Davana, almonds, honey, black sesame, caramel, vanilla, Guaiac wood, tobacco, gray amber, Tonka, patchouli, white musks, and rum. If you recall, the last fragrance that Margaux, Paih, Guérin did was called Dirty Heaven. It also featured gray amber in that fragrance, and I felt that fragrance was a bit too smoky and really didn't go anywhere. It was like focusing too much on the gray amber or ambergris. Here we have it in this fragrance as well, but there's so much nutty notes in here that creates this very interestingly aromatic, woody, nutty, gourmand fragrance that's actually super, super delicious. There's a lot of pistachio in the notes here, along with Davana, and Davana adds a bit of a booziness to the fragrance, creating a little bit of a greenness in the fragrance. But there's also almonds here. There's honey to give you that kind of sticky, sweet consistency. Black sesame or sesame seeds in general, another further nuttiness, powderiness, a bit of lactonic quality in fragrances as well. So not only do you have the honey, you also have caramel. So there's definitely a bit of a sticky consistency here in this fragrance, which is great because I like honey and sugary, sticky, molassesy things drizzled over nuts because it's a really delicious delicacy and you do experience it here in this fragrance. So you've got lots of woods and vanilla that comes in as well. And there's that faint dirtiness from the tobacco, a bit of ashiness. And remember I said the gray amber. Gray amber is not very prominent here. It's in the fragrance, but it's nicely balanced and doesn't dominate or take over to create a bit of a, I don't want to use the word annoyance, but if it's overdone, it can be just unpleasant and not very satisfactory. Here, Margaux, Paih, Guérin has added the right amount to give you some like light funk to the fragrance outside of all the gourmand nutty notes. That's actually super, super delicious. So Happy Nuts, I like the name. It's funny. It's a bit suggestive, but I really like what this brand does with the naming of their fragrances. They're fun, playful, a bit raunchy, and just a good time with the fragrances, and they're not taking it very seriously. They're very, very playful. And some of the fragrances are quite nice. Like in the last batch, we did Sugar Addict, Cinnamon Pleasure, and Dirty Heaven. Sugar Addict was my favorite. I love that one. And actually that fragrance was more of a sweetener is what they called it. But in this case, between the 3 fragrances, I really enjoy Happy Nuts. And this is sweet. Happy Nuts is sweet, but I feel like if you feel like you want to intensify the sweetness, you can add that sugar addict first, spray your hands or wherever you spray your fragrances, let it dry, and then spritz on the Happy Nuts on top to have a bit of a more sugary, sweet take on Happy Nuts. Happy Nuts is fun. Let's go ahead and quickly smell Happy Nuts. If you've already gotten your nose on these fragrances, do let me know. And remember, there is a discount code over at Lucky Scent. It's SCTPG10. It'll save you 10% off the fragrances here that I'm talking about today. So it's very interesting. The pistachio is here, and pistachios in general do have a bit of greenness, right? They're kind of a greenish nutty note. And then there's that Davana note, which is also kind of green as well. So there's a little bit of a green thing happening here, along with that kind of booziness that Davana takes on. There's a kind of a boozy characteristic that Davana has. But, you know, the almonds and the honey that's in here, the caramel, so there's that kind of sticky consistency. And then the black sesame, if you've ever gotten your nose on sesame fragrances, and I feel like sesame seeds are becoming very popular lately, here it's adding another layer of maybe like a polished nuttiness, because sesame seeds do have a bit of nuttiness. They're not necessarily like uber nutty like what pistachios or almonds smell like, because they're a bit more faint. But in here, it's just the right amount. And remember, I said I like to eat kind of, I don't know what the word is. I'm having a difficult time remembering. There's this delicacy of all kinds of nuts drizzled with like a really hard, syrupy, caramelly, honey-like consistency, and it hardens everything. So in this case, with Happy Nuts, that's the kind of experience I'm getting. Just imagine biting into the kind of the nuts that are all kind of chopped up with that kind of sweet, sticky, but hardened kind of syrup that's mixing everything together. That's kind of what you get with Happy Nuts. So Happy Nuts is my favorite of the 3 new fragrances from Born to Stand Out. And those of you that enjoy nutty fragrances definitely should get your nose on Happy Nuts. And again, if you want something sweeter, in this case, Happy Nuts is sweet, but it's not uber sweet. So adding that sugar addict to this fragrance and then spritzing on the Happy Nuts on top, I think will make it even a little bit more gourmand. Because this is gourmand. Happy Nuts is gourmand. It's a nutty gourmand, but it's not like the most gourmand. Like NANATOPIA here in this collection is the most gourmand. So if you want to intensify the gourmand touches of Happy Nuts, you can totally do that with Sugar Addict, which I find as a great kind of a concept of fragrance sweetener. And in sweetening up fragrances that need sweetening, you can totally do that with Happy Nuts. So the first fragrance, as I said, was created by Margaux Le Paih Guérin. The next 2 fragrances are created by Alex Lee, perfumer Alex Lee of Man, a firm that has perfumers working and they create fragrances, and they also have proprietary ingredients, which I'm going to talk about in this video because Alex Lee has used the same proprietary ingredient, Orcanox, in both of the next 2 fragrances, which is basically man's version of something like ambroxan. So the next fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is Mad Honey, my second favorite fragrance in this series of 3 fragrances. And it's interesting, it's the correct order, in alphabetical order that my preferences are, with Happy Nuts being number 1, Mad Honey being number 2, and NANATOPIA being number 3. So Alex Lee created Mad Honey, and it features notes of pink pepper, rum, sassy honey, Damascena rose, bourbon, vanilla, tonka beans, patchouli, benzoin, Orcanox. So there's this interesting thing that happens for me with Mad Honey. There's an addictive quality about honey fragrances, and I'm obsessed with them. Lately, I've been enjoying them quite a bit, especially with the launch of something like Tobacco Honey from the House of Guerlain, which actually has a bit of honey, rosy touch in that fragrance. Here with Mad Honey, though, the rose is a bit more amplified. For me, rose comes in quite a bit in this. And when the 2, are mixed or blended together, it creates for this really addictive, intoxicating quality. And then also giving me a kind of a layer of something makeup-like. I don't know if you guys get that with Mad Honey, but when you smell it, really study the smell and then see if you get something that has that bit of a makeup lipstick kind of a vibe with the fact that there's rose here. There's no iris or violet that's coming in with this one, but whatever rose they're using in this fragrance gives me that kind of a lipsticky makeup vibe, which kind of makes for a very interesting addictive quality. And on top of that, reminding me of fragrances that use honey and rose. Most importantly, there's a fragrance out there from Oman Luxury called Royal Incense, and they don't use rose, but I get a really intense rose quality with that one. There's something in this fragrance that reminds me a little bit of that fragrance, minus the incense notes. So there's a very addictive quality about this one. It's because of the honey. It does end up being a little bit musky, and then also quite addictive, as I said, really, really addictive, because there's something addictive and musky about honey and fragrances. And with this one, the more I smell it, the more I want it. And once it's mixed up with that rose in here, reminding me a little bit of makeup, lipstick or something, there's this really addictive quality that I want to keep smelling this fragrance. Let me read you what Orcanox is to find out and understand this note that's used in this fragrance and the next one, NANATOPIA. Orcanox is synthesized by a biotechnological process from sclareol, a natural compound extracted from exhausted clary sage. This powerful molecule has an indulgent woody scent with musky powdery tones. 100% upcycled, it offers a very complex and sensual, long-lasting note. It is a woody, powdery, and green note with the smell of ambergris tincture, clary sage oil, labdanum, and cypress oil. So basically, I took that from Fragrantica, as they had a really nice description. I was actually on the Man website, and it didn't really come together very well, but whatever Fragrantica wrote about Orcanox really makes sense. And basically for me, it's kind of like Ambroxan. It's basically man's version of Ambroxan. And for me, this does take on a very powdery characteristic. In fact, I've mentioned it in past videos. This is the 4th video now for Born to Stand Out I've done. And a lot of their fragrances do have a powdery wear. Like, you will really notice the powderiness. And here with Mad Honey and also NANATOPIA, I think more with Mad Honey, it's the most powdery of the three, but all three of the fragrances are quite powdery. And that's another reason why Mad Honey does remind me a little bit of that makeup thing. As I was mentioning, makeup, lipstick, it's that rose that comes in, tricks my nose, and kind of makes for the reminder of something makeup-y, lipsticky, and even further reminding me of fragrances like Lipstick Rose by Frederic Malle, or any of those kind of lipsticky smelling fragrances. But Mad Honey is quite delicious. It's very addictive. It's not as good for me as Happy Nuts. I think everything about Happy Nuts is fun and happy and playful. Mad Honey is definitely a great one. It's a bit more serious, but also very addictive, as I said. I really enjoy the honey in this with the rose. That combination, I think it's a really great combination. Very addictive, very inviting, and intoxicatingly delicious. So that's Mad Honey for you, and then with a little bit of an explanation of Orcanox. Hopefully you guys understand what Orcanox is. But let's go in and quickly smell this one so I can tell you a little bit more about Mad Honey. And if you've gotten your nose on Mad Honey, do let me know. Yeah, it's good. It's quite good. Very powdery, very. But the whole DNA of this house is very powdery. When you first spray this, it doesn't have that reminder of the combination of honey and rose that I'm getting reminded of here. Then all of a sudden, it wakes me up and it reminds me a little bit of other fragrances that I'm familiar with. And then after that, it gives me that kind of reminder of lipstick, makeup, powder, and things like that. But again, very nice. I really enjoy Mad Honey. It's my second favorite of the 3 fragrances that just dropped from Born to Stand Out. So that's Mad Honey. Let me know if you are familiar with Orcanox or you weren't familiar with Orcanox, and now you understand it as I've mentioned it to you, and with the usage here as well. For me, Ambroxan or any note similar to it, in this case Orcanox, has a powdery experience. I always visualize or experience Ambroxan or Orcanox to be very powdery and dusty, with kind of like taking amber, hardening it, mixing it woods, chopping it up, shaving it, turning it into dust, and adding musk to it, maybe like light marine or aquatic touches. You know, all of that comes together to create what Ambroxan, or Orcanox in this case, smells like. It's supposed to be an alternative for ambergris, and I've mentioned it many times. To me, it doesn't smell anything like ambergris, but it's become very, very popular to use in fragrances. But let's go ahead and talk about the third and final fragrance from this house. It's NANATOPIA. this one right here. Again, the 3 fragrances that just dropped from Born to Stand Out, I think this particular series is a bit more solid than the last series. I think in the last series, Dirty Heaven, I didn't really care for that much. But here, I like all 3 with the, with the Happy Nuts being my favorite. But these 2 fragrances created by Alex Lee are also pretty solid in comparison to Dirty Heaven. But NANATOPIA features notes of nutmeg, cinnamon, rum, banana bread, melted caramel, Tonka bean absolute, Cypriol, Orcanox. There's that Orcanox once again. So let me tell you right up front, I am not the biggest fan of banana when it comes to banana fragrance. Like, I love to eat bananas and I love banana bread, but I'm not the biggest fan of banana in fragrances. I haven't really found something that's really, really amazing banana-like. And I have a feeling banana is going to be the next note next year. I think we're going to see a lot of banana fragrances. At least we know that the KLE has one coming from, if you got to watch my video with Mona, who came by the studio when I mentioned banana to her, and I guess they're working on one. But here we have a banana fragrance, but in this case, it's a banana bread fragrance. But it's an uber spicy, once again, sticky gourmand. Banana comes in. You do have that kind of a banana bread consistency, a little doughy. The banana smell is there. You do totally smell it. And as a younger person, I was always into cooking and baking, and I used to make banana bread with banana cake. And that smell is really captured nicely here. You definitely smell the idea of a banana bread or cake in this, because it does have those kind of gourmand touches for sure. But along the way, you have the, sticky, caramelly, sweet consistency. And of course, everything else that goes in here, the warm spices and things like that. But it's not one of my favorite fragrances because banana is a bit challenging, I think. I haven't smelled a banana fragrance that's like the most amazing. Like, I like banana, but more to eat rather than to wear as a smell. And I'm sounding a bit negative here about that because I love all things gourmand, but I just haven't found the banana fragrance that tops the banana fragrances that I've put my nose on. I think they're fun. They're an acquired taste and you get used to them once in a while. But that one banana fragrance that I've found, I haven't really enjoyed. But again, this is, I think, a decent gourmand, paying tribute to the banana, in this case, the banana bread, and mixing it with a lot of different notes and ingredients to come up with something very deliciously gourmand. It does have that powdery consistency once again. I find that NANATOPIA is the second powderiest fragrance compared to all 3. In this case, actually, I should say the Mad Honey and NANATOPIA are both very powdery compared to the Happy Nuts. But still, the whole DNA of this house has a very powdery take on their fragrances. You'll notice it and you really will experience it when you're wearing it. But again, I don't hate this fragrance. It's just banana is not doing it so much for me. That's why I'm ranking it here at the 3rd spot. But who knows? You might find this to be quite delicious and turns out your favorite of all 3 of the fragrances. But for me, NANATOPIA is the 3rd and final in the collection that just dropped from Born to Stand Out. So let me go ahead and quickly sniff this on camera for you as well to give you a little bit more of an idea. It does have a little booziness, gives you the bit of a holiday vibe, like a holiday fruitcake with bananas thrown in, kind of a vibe here. But again, that banana note, it's not my favorite note. It kind of comes in, makes for an interesting wear, but then it's banana. You notice it's banana, so it's there. But yeah, very banana. Warm, spicy for sure. Sticky, syrupy. The caramel comes in. And you've got the booziness for sure. And there's the spices and all that muskiness from that Orcanox note. But that appears more on skin. Right now we're doing all the top notes. Perhaps there's a little bit of a nuttiness as well. The Tonka beans is adding or contributing to create something nutty here. I mean, it's a pleasant smell. It's not bad. That's why I've said this series of 3 fragrances is much more solid than the last 3. Whereas the last 3, Sugar Addict, Sin and Pleasure were great, and Dirty Heaven completely fell apart for me. Here, these are really, really great, but again, the banana thing is just not my all-time favorite, note to put in a fragrance. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the 3 latest fragrances from Born to Stand Out. This latest one is NANATOPIA. Favorite one is Happy Nuts. And then we've got Mad Honey as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this location of shooting. I'm in Tokyo today shooting this video as I wanted to get this video out and I wasn't able to get it shot before I left. And it's nice to do a video here with this nice view behind. I'm not even remembering the name of the neighborhood I'm in, but right around the corner, I've got the Tokyo Tower here. But anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on the fragrances of Born to Stand Out, and if you've gotten your nose on these three fragrances. Again, these three are a bit more solid than the last three. The fact that Dirty Heaven didn't work for me in the last batch, but the other two were really great for me. This one, they're really great, except I prefer Happy Nuts a lot more. And don't forget to take advantage of that discount code. It's SCTPG10, which will save you 10% off your orders over at Lucky Scent. I have it linked in the info box. But thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.